How's it going, guys and girls? Hope you guys are having a great week. Happy N7 day, guys, or I should say happy N7 week, because I'm celebrating all things Mass Effect all week long. I hope you guys had a great N7 day yesterday, guys, and were as excited and hyped for this game as I am. Yesterday, we learned a lot about Mass Effect Andromeda from both Bioware and the trailers and information that they revealed, but also Game Informer released a 16-page spread with more information about Mass Effect Andromeda after being lucky enough to go to Edmonton and interview the developers. So here are 17 things that we learned about Mass Effect Andromeda on N7 day. Number 1, the time frame. We finally learned when Mass Effect Andromeda is set, or more importantly, when it begins. Well, Mass Effect Andromeda begins in 2185. Now, for those of you that don't know, this is right around the time of Mass Effect 2. So while Shepard is off fighting the Collectors, that is when the Andromeda Initiative kicks off, or when they leave to go to the Andromeda Galaxy. Now, what will this mean for our characters? Well, a number of things, and it is a clever way for Bioware to avoid the whole ending and Shepard and everything that happened, because our characters will have no idea about the Reapers. At this point, most of the Milky Way galaxy do not believe that the Reapers are real, and they don't know very much about Shepard. Of course, she might be well known for the Citadel and her heroics in fighting Saren, the Geth, and Sovereign, but the universe at this time isn't under the threat of Reaper invasion. So our characters are going to have a very, very different backdrop. It also means a lot of the things that we actually did in Mass Effect 3, like, for example, for me, curing the genophage and stopping the war between the Geth and the Quarians, none of that will have happened in Andromeda, and none of our characters will be aware of these events. Number 2, the Andromeda Initiative. Well, we found out a lot more about this. Now, the Andromeda Initiative was founded in 2176, and it is a civilian and multi-species project that is funded by powerful benefactors. So it is a privately funded objective. It's not supported by the Council nor by the Alliance, so there are no military ties, and the basic goal is to go to Andromeda and to discover new worlds to colonize. Now, the Andromeda Initiative is made up of 4 arcs, each of which is meant to support thousands of lives. Now, these 4 arcs will cover the Council races. So the human arc, which is called Hyperion, will be the human vessel. There is also one for Taurians, Solarians, and the Asari. Now, that is also interesting because there is no mention that there is going to be a Krogan arc, nor a Quarian arc. Now, what are the reasons for that? One reason might be simply because the Krogan at this time will still suffer from the genophage. Those Krogan that set off in 2185 will still be under the curse of the genophage, and therefore will not be able to procreate. Quarians as well, in terms of their suits, might have problems in terms of surviving in the Mass Effect Andromeda, but we have seen Krogan in the trailers, so we do know there are Krogan around, and I think these Krogan have been hired as mercenaries, as the bodyguards, basically the hired help. There is going to be a massive mothership, which is a forward command ship, which is absolutely huge in comparison to the arcs, and this is going to be a mixed species crew. Number 3, the Pathfinders. There are 4 Pathfinders in total, 1 for each arc, and they will be exemplars of each species with unique abilities, both in terms of combat, biotics, being a scientist, and also a diplomat. Number 4, the names of the Ryder family. Well, Daddy Ryder, as I like to refer to him, his name is actually Alec Ryder, and he is very, very famous and renowned. He is an N7 graduate, like Shepard, but he is older than Shepard, and he is actually part of John Grisham's first team that went through the Sharon Relay and actually fought in the First Contact War between the humans and the Taurians. So I hope we get to speak to him, because he has a really, really interesting background, and I hope we get to see a lot more of him. The two sibling riders, or baby rider as I call them, are called Scott and Sarah Ryder. Sadly, Dante was hoping would be called Luke and Leia, though you can name them in your own name. But this twin brother and sister are going to be very young, a lot younger than Shepard was at the beginning of Mass Effect 1, and relatively inexperienced. The whole story of Mass Effect Andromeda is a traditional hero's journey. So at the beginning of the game, suffice it to say, Daddy Ryder, or Alec Ryder, who is the Pathfinder for the Hyperion, something's going to happen to him. Either he will die or disappear, and Scott or Sarah will be thrust into the role of Pathfinder and will have to learn to do the job. Will have to learn to become a pioneer or a leader, and that's going to be an experience in itself. Number 6, the voice actors have been announced. Well, the voice actors of the main 3 characters have now been announced by Bioware. Playing Alec Ryder will be Clancy Brown. Now, for those of you that might not know, he voice acted Hades in God of War 3 and also Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob SquarePants.
They're overwhelming, really.
Voice acting Scott Ryder will be Tom Taylorson, who voice acted Octodad in Octodad the Dadliest Catch. And voice acting Sarah Ryder will be Frida Wolf, who is the main narrator in Civilization Beyond Earth.
Since the earliest of civilizations.
Number 6, customization of family. Well, Mike Gamble basically explained that you can, of course, fully customize your own character, and that there will definitely be more customization options than there were in the original trilogy. But as this is a family story, and obviously you want your character to resemble your sibling and also your father, you can also customize your family to some degree so that both your dad and your sibling will resemble you in some way, or will look like you. So there will be that feeling of consistency throughout the game. Number 7, new races. Well, Bioware, of course, are keeping a little bit quiet on this. They don't want to give too much away. We did hear a sinister voice which was insinuating the enemy that we might be fighting, but they have revealed a new race to Game Informer, and that race is called the Ket. Now, all we have is an image of them, and they look pretty sweet. But we know very little about them, except perhaps at some point in the game we might be fighting them, and they could potentially be an antagonistic race, though we sure as hell know that Shepard pretty much fought all of the different species throughout the game. So whether or not that's as a species they're fighting you, or if it's just individual characters, individual aliens, I guess that remains to be seen. The really exciting thing for Andromeda, though, is it very much is like Mass Effect 1, where we are discovering these races for the first time. The only difference with Mass Effect 1 is a lot of these first contacts had already happened, so we were sort of finding out about these races, but they'd already sort of interacted together and had already set clear hierarchies and ways of behaving and treating each other. So for the very first time, we're actually going to come across species that we have never seen before, and it's going to be really interesting to decide whether we want to choose a diplomatic route or a more aggressive route, depending on the aliens that we face. It's very, very, very exciting, and I am very excited to see these new aliens. Number 8, that Asari. Well, finally, guys, we've heard a little bit more about who this Asari is. I am so hyped to see her character and find out more about her, but we do know her name. Her name is PB or Phoebe. I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm not overly keen on the name, to be honest. I don't like it really, but we do know something about her. She pretty much came to Andromeda on the Nexus, so she's not part of the Asari arc, and she from the get-go went off adventuring on her own. She's a bit of a lone wolf, and she's not really interested in teamwork so much as what Ryder can do for her, what he can lead her to. She looks quite young, so I'd say she is probably a maiden, and of course maidens don't really like to be tied down. Liara was a bit unusual for that in Mass Effect 1, 2 and 3, but from her personality we know that she is very, very bubbly, very smart, and and is not concerned with social niceties at all. So her character should be quite amusing and quite interesting to interact with. Number 9, loyalty missions are back. I'm so happy to see that loyalty missions are going to be back in Mass Effect Andromeda. I was hoping that these would exist in Mass Effect 3, but I kind of understand why they didn't, because of course your squad mates already knew you, were already loyal to you, and you already at that time had a certain degree of respect that people were just going to follow you into battle. It makes perfect sense to have loyalty missions in Mass Effect Andromeda, especially because Scott and Sarah are very new in their role as Pathfinder, and of course they're having to bond with their squad so that they are loyal to you and trust you. So loyalty missions will be back. Now they're going to be side missions, they're not going to be tied into the main story, and they're going to be completely optional extras, so you don't have to do them. And also, if you choose not to play the loyalty missions, then that will have no negative impact on the ending of the game. So it is not like Mass Effect 2's suicide mission, wherein if you didn't do the loyalty missions, certain members of your team might potentially die. So that is not going to happen. But obviously, if you want more of an experience, if you want to learn more about these squad mates and have a broader understanding of your team and more, perhaps a more in-depth experience, then definitely you might want to do these loyalty missions, and I for one will absolutely be doing every single one. Number 10, romance options. Well, there are more romance options than ever before. Some are light, some are serious, and there are also friendships that you can develop as well. And Mac Walters has said that there will be moments similar to those in Mass Effect 3. For example, Garrus's bottle challenge moment with Shepard was an incredibly popular and touching scene, and there are going to be very similar scenes like this in Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, in terms of the romance as well, it's not going to be a case of talking to your character and hitting certain dialogue options before a certain point in the game to lock in that romance. Mark Walters has actually said, and this is a direct quote here, there should be some people who just want to hop in the sack immediately. There should be people who are interested in long-term relationships, and there are people who aren't interested in romance at all. So your experience is going to be a lot more fluid in Mass Effect Andromeda compared to other Mass Effect games. I think it's going to be very similar to Dragon Age Inquisition, because though romances in that were like that, there were some that wanted romance and there were some that just wanted a fun good time. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that that is going to be an option, and God, it's going to be amazing to sort of see all the characters and decide who to romance. It's such a hard decision. Number 11, the Tempest. Well, we've learned a little bit more about the Tempest. Now, it's a smaller, faster and fleeter ship. It's actually a scout ship. It's actually smaller than the Normandy, and that means that you will be able to walk throughout the ship from level to level, and there will be no more loading screens. The most interesting thing that we learned, though, was about the galaxy map, which will be very, very different to the Mass Effect Trilogy. In the Mass Effect Trilogy, when you went into the galaxy map, you saw a little icon of your ship, and you could fly around and travel from sort of system to system using the mass relays, and then you had a loading screen which showed you traveling, or the screen might go to black and show a loading screen before you end up on the planet. Well, that is not happening. The developers have said they want a more fluid experience, and they want people to feel like they're really traveling to those locations. So what will basically happen is, if you're on a planet and you go onto the galaxy map and you decide you want to go into orbit, on the actual monitor it will show the ship travel into orbit, and then you will be able to see an image of the planet in front of you. If you then click into your galaxy map and choose a different system or a different planet, it will actually show the ship traveling through space, and obviously it will show that planet as well. From the galaxy map you can scan the planet, send out probes to look for points of interest, and if you want to go onto the planet as well, you simply go down into the garage where the Nomad is stored, get into the Nomad, and then order it to be sort of sent down to the planet's surface, and then you can drive off of your ship, and apparently you can also walk off of your ship as well. So The whole idea is not to have loading time so these don't pull you out of the game. And I love the sound of this. It sounds absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to see it in action. Number 12, combat changes. There are a number of changes to Mass Effect Andromeda. The first is to do with power cooldowns. Now, power cooldowns will not be global, but they will be individual timers for different abilities. And all major powers are now going to be hotkeyed for quick use to certain buttons and prompts. The whole idea is to move away from this ability to pause the game, to bring up the weapon wheel and select powers. They want the gameplay and the combat to feel a lot more fluid, a lot quicker and more exciting. You do have the ability to pause the game for those of you that are worried about that, but they're wanting to try to encourage that not to happen as much as it used to. The most interesting thing though is the cover system. The cover system is no longer attached to a button. In fact, it is a non-stick cover system. So you simply go up to a cover and your character will automatically get into that cover. You pull back on the thumbstick to get out of the cover, and it's supposed to be quite smooth and quite easy to use. The biggest addition, of course, is the jetpack, and this is going to replace the combat roll, and instead you'll be able to use the jetpack to dash faster from left to right, I assume, and forward and backward. You can also use it to get over obstacles or to get to higher ground, and there is also a hover function as part of that jetpack, which allows you to perform certain aerial attacks and to push enemies out of cover if they're hunkering behind cover. It also means that the combat will be a lot more sort of vertical in its design, and a lot of the levels have been developed with a lot of verticality, and Game Informer did say that they were able to play some of the game and some of the multiplayer, and they were quite impressed with the level design and the verticality in levels. For the first time as well, we will also have melee weapons, although it's not really the first time in multiplayer, because we did have melee weapons. We had the ability to use the swords in Mass Effect 3's multiplayer, but these will actually now come to the single player campaign, which is quite exciting. So we'll have the ability to use swords and hammers as well, so that should be quite interesting to see it. Number 13, the removal of a class system. Now this is massive. Instead of selecting a class like infiltrator or soldier or adept when creating a character and having to stick to that class for the rest of the game, you will actually have access to the full range of abilities throughout the course of the game, and you can pretty much mix and match and respec the powers that you want to use at any given time. You can of course specialize, and what this basically means is if you invest enough points in a certain category of skills, you unlock a particular profile that provides bonuses, perhaps in damage or in power cooldown or something like that. So for example, if you spend points mostly in biotic skills, you will unlock the adept profile. Spend points in biotic and soldier, of course you get the vanguard, but there is a new profile as well which is called the explorer, and this is if you spend points in multiple categories, so your character is more balanced. But what that basically means is you can attack a mission in any way that you want. So you could do a certain mission using biotic abilities. Perhaps if it's against enemies with barriers or with armor, you can use sort of an infiltrator style mission if you're trying to take down shields, or if there's synthetic life that you're taking on, that kind of thing. So I like the fact that you can be a bit more strategic in how you spec your main character throughout the game. Now this makes sense in terms of the story, because of course the Pathfinder is supposed to be a proficient in all skills and a good all-round character. Now whether your companions will have a similar ability, that remains to be seen, but it does make sense in terms of the story for the Pathfinder. Armor as well will have customization, and you can independently place armor in certain slots. So for the head, the chest, the shoulder, the legs, this will optimize stats and also change appearances as well. For the first time as well now, you can actually find blueprints for weapons and armor. Now, this isn't like Mass Effect 2 where this just unlocked a certain upgrade. You actually find blueprints and you can actually craft your own armor and weapons. And that for me is extremely exciting, especially because it's one of the features that I love the most in Dragon Age Inquisition. So to be able to do this in Mass Effect Andromeda sounds amazing, and I'm very much looking forward to it. There will be familiar weapons and armor present as well. So the weapons that existed when they set off at the beginning of Andromeda during Mass Effect 2, these of course will be around because they've traveled 600 years with these weapons in their cargo. So things like the Avenger assault rifle, the Black Widow sniper, these sorts of weapons will be around. So there will be some familiar favorites there to use as well. Number 14, the removal of the Paragon and Renegade system. Again, that is a massive decision on the part of Bioware. What they basically did is they have explained that they wanted to do this because they felt that the Paragon and Renegade system was something that was intrinsically connected to Shepard, and that it would feel very strange to use the same system for Ryder. So instead of having the Paragon Renegade system, the decisions that you make in the game are no longer black and white or good and bad. They're steeped in grey, which is definitely a trend for RPGs at the moment. When we look at RPGs, for example, like Dragon Age Inquisition, or particularly The Witcher 3, where there really were no right or wrong answers, and you could make, different choices depending on how you were feeling. Now, the dialogue options are now going to be associated with what's called tones, so you can choose to respond to somebody either with, from the heart, using your head, in a professional manner, or casual. The interruptions are back as well, so you can interrupt conversations, but they're no longer going to be tied to, blue or red icons, Renegade or Paragon. Instead, these are called narrative actions, and you will see a prompt on screen that gives you an indication of what will happen if you choose to do that interruption. So for example, there might be a prompt that says shoot, and obviously you decide whether or not you want to do that action. Number 15, the multiplayer. Finally, we've heard some more about the multiplayer, and it sounds exciting. The multiplayer is going to be a very similar structure to Mass Effect 3, and I think that's a good thing because the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer was incredibly successful. I played it for hours and hours and had a blast playing it. But pretty much for those of you that didn't play it, the Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer will be about cooperatively fighting waves of enemies that become increasingly difficult through each wave. Now in Mass Effect 3, I think it was 10 waves that you had to survive, so maybe it's a similar number of waves or a similar number of enemies as well. If you sort of depending how far you get in the waves, that will impact upon the amount of XP or currency that you receive, and this currency can be used to upgrade this XP can be used to upgrade your powers. The currency can be used to buy equipments or character packs. Players can also set the difficulty, choose the map and the enemy faction that they want to fight. But there are some new additions as well. There are what are called match modifiers. Now what this basically means is before a match you can modify the settings to make it more difficult or easier. So for example, you could give more damage to your team early on in the match, or you could choose to do less damage or increase the armor that enemy factions might have. Now the more difficult these modifiers for you, of course the better the rewards that you will receive, the more XP, the more currency. Bioware themselves will have weekly challenges and will put out custom crafted missions that you can fight, and if you complete these custom crafted missions, you actually get something new which is called mission funds. Now these mission funds can be used in a number of ways. The primary way that sounds very exciting for me is you can use these mission funds to buy direct weapons or equipment or characters from a store rather than relying on the mercy of random card packs, because we all know RNG is RNG. And this is one of the things that a lot of players had a beef with when it came to Mass Effect 3 with the completely randomized packs. And sometimes you get the same character 5 or 6 times, the same weapon that you already had, and it became quite frustrating for a lot of people. Now, these stores will have rotating stocks, and I kind of liken this to what Destiny has done with special coins and Xur being around every week to sell exotic weapons, that kind of thing. So I think it's going to be very similar to that, is that you will collect these mission funds over time, and then every week you can have a look at what's in store, and if it's something that you want, you can go ahead and spend those mission funds and purchase them. Bioware have alluded that these mission funds as well might have some impact on the single player as well, or might be usable in the single player campaign, so that is also exciting. Number 16, Mass Effect Andromeda will not be a trilogy. Now, I don't know how I feel about this. To a degree, I'm a little disappointed because I did love the fact that Mass Effect 1 to 3 was a trilogy, that it followed Shepard's story and experience throughout the games, and I feel like it made for a better story. In many ways, I feel that Mass Effect 3 is superior to Dragon Age simply because you do have that trilogy, that sense of a trilogy. You do have that connection to the characters throughout 1 to 3 that you don't have as much in Dragon Age. Now, of course you do with certain characters like Varric or Cassandra, of course you do, but I feel that Mass Effect is much more is much better in terms of that. Now, they have said that they are hoping to make more games in the Andromeda Galaxy, and they are definitely aiming to make more games, but Mac Walters was quoted as saying, and this is a direct quote from him, "At the end of this, we want it to feel like a story has completed. Yes, for the universe, there's much more you could explore, and we want to tease that, but it feels like it's its own story. It's like, great, I had my Ryder sibling becoming a hero story. What's next? Is it going to be Ryder? Is it going to be something else? Who knows?" So what we can read from that is he's not said that it's not a trilogy, that we won't continue to see characters like, Sarah or Scott Ryder in the universe, but they are aiming for this story to be a completely self-contained story about Ryder and his or her hero's journey. Maybe perhaps in the following games we might get to see some of the other Paragons, and that might be the first time when they will let us play as an Asari or a Turian or a Solarian, and I think that would be really awesome. That would be a good way to go forward with the franchise. But either way, this is the first game, and they are hoping to make more. It just depends, obviously, on how successful Andromeda is going to be, but I can imagine this being incredibly successful. Number 17, the cover art, pre-orders, and the collector's edition. Now, we haven't received any more information on the release date, which I'm a bit disappointed in. As far as we know, it's going to be released in spring 2017. When that's going to be, we don't know yet, but we have seen some images of the cover art, particularly for the deluxe edition, and I quite like the design of the deluxe edition art, which is really, really cool. But we have seen more information on the different versions that you can pre-order. So you have the Mass Effect Andromeda Deluxe Edition. Now, these are selling on the Bioware store at the moment. This is the American prices, and at the moment you can pre-order them in America. There's no signs about any of these in Europe. I'm hoping they will become available in Europe soon. But if you get the deluxe edition in America, that will cost you $70. And as part of that, of course, you get the base game. But on top of that as well, you also get the Pathfinder casual outfit, scavenger armor, Pathfinder elite weapon set. I think it's a set of 4 weapons possibly. So probably a shotgun, sniper rifle, pistol, and assault rifle. A pet Pyjack. That's the most exciting part for me. The digital soundtrack, which sounds amazing because I love the music in Mass Effect, so I would absolutely want to buy the soundtrack, and a multiplayer deluxe launch pack, which is worth about $5. So that is what you get in the deluxe edition. Now that, for me, that sounds like good value for money. If the base game is going to cost you $60, then only for an extra $10, you're getting all that content, which sounds fantastic. The collector's editions, there are a number of collector's editions, some coming with the game and without the game, and that's around the Nomad ND1 model that you can get, which is basically the Mako for Mass Effect Andromeda. Now you can get the die-cast version, which is just comes with the Nomad. That is all it comes with, and it is $100 to get that sort of collectible figurine. If you want to get it with the game, it will cost you $160, and then you have the $200 collector's edition, which comes with a remote controlled version of the Nomad, and if you want to get it with the deluxe edition or with the game, it's $260. Now the Nomad with the game, I would hope it would come with all of the deluxe digital versions, and looking at the website, it does look like it does. It looks like it comes with all the benefits of the digital edition, plus of course the remote controlled Nomad, which you can use your mobile phone through an app to control. Now I don't know how I feel about the collector's edition. Yeah, I would love to get it, I really would, but I can't afford it, especially with me buying a house and money is very, very tight at the moment, and I know that Dante wants to get himself a Nintendo Switch, so between the two of us we're kind of saving for that, because he wants to get that with Zelda, and I don't know if I can justify spending $260. I'd love to have it, I think it would be amazing, but I don't know how much I would use it. I really don't. Either way, of course I'll be buying Mass Effect Andromeda, but those are all the different versions that you can pre-order so far. So that is everything that we know about Mass Effect Andromeda so far. There are 17 new things there that we learned on N7 Day yesterday. That is a lot of information that we have learned about Mass Effect Andromeda. Some of those things sound amazing, and I'm really excited to play this game, to check them out. Now, if you haven't already, you should definitely sign up for the it's called Beacon Bioware, and you can sign up to be able to be with a chance of playing the beta for the multiplayer when it becomes available. So I'll put a link to the website below where you go to sign up for that. Go ahead and sign up for it, guys, and it just looks incredible. But yeah, that is everything that we know about Mass Effect Andromeda so far. I am so hyped for this game. The more I hear about it, the more amazing it sounds. Let me know what you guys think about all this information in the comment section below. If you discovered something new, let me know. Put a link to the source as well below. I definitely will be checking those out. But anyway, I hope you guys found this video useful, informative, and interesting. Let me know if you did. If you did enjoy it, of course, hit the like button as always to show your support. Take care, guys and girls, and as always, happy gaming. I should go. Yeah.